In this podcast episode, Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic congresswoman and presidential candidate, discusses her views on the current state of American politics. Gabbard expressed her disillusionment with the Democratic Party, which she believes is controlled by woke warmongers who prioritize power and control over the values of freedom and democracy. She recounts her experience running for president in 2020, where she faced smear campaigns and limited exposure on the debate stage, highlighting the rigged nature of the political system. Gabbard emphasizes the need for voters to be clear-eyed about the consequences of their choices, pointing out the stark differences between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump on key issues such as border security, education, and foreign policy. She criticizes Biden for undermining Title IX and eroding the rule of law through executive actions, warning that his administration's policies would further erode freedom and democracy in America. Regarding Biden's cognitive issues, Gabbard acknowledges that she had not met with him since he became president, but noted the noticeable changes in his speech and behavior. She expresses concern about the implications of having a president who struggles to communicate effectively, especially in a time of geopolitical instability. Gabbard also raises concerns about Vice President Kamala Harris potentially taking over from Biden, suggesting that she could be even worse and more dangerous than Biden in terms of policy decisions. She urges voters not to be distracted by potential leadership changes and to focus on the anti-freedom and anti-constitution agenda of the current administration. Gabbard continues with the current state of the Democratic Party in the United States. She expresses her concerns about the direction in which the country is heading and the impact of certain policies and narratives promoted by the Democratic elite. She highlights the importance of unity and understanding between men and women, emphasizing the need to focus on shared values and character rather than divisive factors such as gender or race. Gabbard criticizes the Democratic Party's leadership, referring to them as the Democratic elite, who she believes are driven by a desire for power and control rather than genuine concern for the well-being of the American people. She points out the hypocrisy and self-serving nature of some politicians who prioritize their own ambitions over the needs of the country. She also discusses the influence of external factors such as George Soros and the media in shaping political narratives and agendas. The conversation delves into the concept of power addiction, with Gabbard likening the behavior of certain politicians to that of addicts who prioritize their craving for power above all else. She raises concerns about the detrimental effects of this addiction on democratic principles and the functioning of the government. She also touches on the issue of leadership and the importance of authenticity and integrity in political figures. Gabbard shares personal anecdotes and experiences, including her upbringing in Hawaii and her military service. She emphasizes the value of being true to oneself and not conforming to artificial expectations or stereotypes based on gender or other factors. She advocates for a more inclusive and understanding society where individuals are judged based on their character and actions rather than superficial attributes. Gabbard expresses her concerns about the weaponization and politicization of the justice system in the country, particularly in cases involving former President Donald Trump. She highlights the campaign promises made by officials like Alvin Bragg and Letitia James to go after Trump, which she believes has led to a biased approach in the justice system. Gabbard also touches upon the upcoming elections and the potential outcomes, expressing her belief that there are more Americans now who are recognizing the impact of policies implemented by the current administration. She mentions the issue of open borders and the challenges it poses, especially in terms of security and economic impact. She emphasizes the need for a realistic approach to addressing immigration issues and securing the border. The conversation then shifts to the topic of the war in Ukraine, with Gabbard discussing the historical context of NATO expansion and its role in the conflict. She raises concerns about the lack of clear objectives and defined outcomes in the current approach to the war, calling for diplomatic efforts to be prioritized. She questions the effectiveness of sending financial aid to Ukraine without a clear strategy for resolution. In response to a question about the counterfactual scenario of NATO expansion, Gabbard acknowledges the complexities of containing Russia and the historical context of the region. She emphasizes the importance of having open discussions and debates on foreign policy decisions, highlighting the need for a nuanced approach to addressing geopolitical challenges. As the conversation comes to a close, Gabbard raises concerns about the erosion of civil liberties in the United States, particularly in relation to government surveillance and encroachments on privacy. She warns against sacrificing freedoms in the name of security and calls for greater accountability and transparency in government actions.